Oh, we're talking about PTSD and its representation in the media? Oh.
Let's get into it.
PTSD. This word that gets thrown at a lot by a lot of different people in a lot of different scenarios. And not always accurately. Sometimes it is used as a blanket term for a lot of stuff, and that's not always, the right thing to do. It's something that a lot of people struggle with, and anyone can get PTSD because it can be caused by a lot of different things. Military folks like myself have a tendency of trying to gatekeep this trauma. I don't know why. It's kind of a weird flex when you think about it. We're just like, oh yeah, we're in the military. I've been in the shit. I've done some stuff and some things. And like, you can't have it because, you haven't seen things I've seen. That's quantifiable horseshit. Like, you don't necessarily, have to, be blown up by an IED to get PTSD. There are victims of assault, there are, domestic abuse victims, family abuse victims. Like, all of them can have PTSD. Like, it's just, situations of just continuous stress can cause PTSD because it alters your brain chemistry and causes you to fundamentally change, like how you think and how you act is being interrupted by this cortisol in your bloodstream, this fight or flight instinct that is being activated by this everyday reaction. We associate it with combat because, of course, you're being put into a high intensity situation and it's just like there's life threatening things going on, and of course your adrenaline spikes and your cortisol spikes, and that's all up in your brain chemistry, and you've got all these images and things going on that are embedded in your consciousness forever. But that's not always the things that cause it. It's good to understand that it can happen to anyone, and it can manifest in a multitude of ways. And just to start off, the basic definition of what PTSD actually is, you need to go on Google and find it, and I'll post it right here. This is what it actually is. That's what it means. So understand what you're saying and what it means before you go throwing a term around. But then also understand who it can apply to and why. And have empathy and sympathy for where they're coming from. Us in, the former military and active military, I think definitely need to be better about that, because we like to think we have a monopoly on suffering when we don't. And that kind of brings it into my primary point of a good example that kind of shows the point that I'm trying to make. A pop culture icon of PTSD, the Ironman. Now, I know there are detractors out there thinking oh no, stupid and all that, and I know Rick and Morty kind of did their takedown, trying to make fun of it, which honestly is kind of shitty when you think about it, because it's a very good portrayal of PTSD when you break it down. More so than I thought. I keep doing this where I'm like, oh yeah, that's good, and then I actually, do some writing, I do some reading, I dig into it, and I'm like, it's even better than I thought. Because as we break it down, you can look into all the facts about Tony Stark, who he is as a person, the caliber of man that he is, and then the situations he got into, and to have that character not have some form of PTSD would be like a glaring oversight for the writers, because there's no way that kind of person could be put into those scenarios and come out on the other side just be like, I'm perfectly fine, I handled this well. My life is completely unchanged and my mind is a steel trap that took no damage from all the things I endured. That would make absolutely no sense. Like, even freaking Steve Rogers, Captain America, you know, he went through the crap he went through, and, like, it altered who he was fundamentally as the series went on. We'll discuss his issues in a different video, but it shows that they're paying attention, and they want to show you specifically what's going on. And let's get into that. Let's get into, like, what makes Iron Man a good demonstration of PTSD. Well, first and foremost, he's not military personnel. He's not trained. He was not conditioned, he was not trained, and he was not prepared for combat, for extreme situations, for extreme weather. He wasn't prepared for shit, all right? He was a pampered, pretty boy. He was a privileged rich kid who literally had everything handed to him his whole life. His only issue was his daddy issues that he had because he never had daddy's love and he had some hang-ups about it. But then again, who doesn't have some family issues? But completely unprepared for what was going to happen to him when he got to Afghanistan. Relatable, right? So, as we break it down, he's not trained. He's emotionally repressed because of his daddy issues. So he never shows anyone his actual emotions. So he's already emotionally immature and repressed and not dealing with his own mental health in a constructive, immature way. And right at that point in his life, he gets nearly killed by one of his own missiles and kidnapped and tortured and imprisoned by the 10 Rings posers, whoever they turned out to be. All right, so again, pretty boy now kidnapped and tortured and forced into creating weapons of murder. Then let's list out the rest of his traumas that happens to this wad of cookie dough. He then has to fabricate a murder suit, and then he proceeds to kill all of his captors in order to facilitate his escape. After his one friend there, like this one person he's managed to care about at all, who actually gave a shit about him, gets killed facilitating his escape. So he sees this one person who gave a shit about him, died saving him, who also saved his life. They die, and then he proceeds to kill a bunch of people on the way out. He's never killed anyone before. And he doesn't even have time to process the fact that he is now officially a killer. And then leaves. Gets back to civilization. Still hasn't processed that trauma. Is just trying to get back to zero. He wants a shower. As anyone who's been in this shit knows, you want a shower. Because you're filthy and you're achy, and you just want to be clean. And then you want a burger. Another thing they got right. You want good food. You want to be clean, you want good food, and then all the other hierarchy of needs you fill in later. But it is amazing how much you just want to fucking shower when you get out of this shit. Anyway, so he's a killer, he gets back to civilization, and then let's go on to list the rest of the things that happen. He gets, he gets betrayed by a trusted family confidant who then tries to kill him and steal all of his designs. He almost dies when his arc reactor fails and Dummy saves him by giving him another arc reactor. He then has to fight and like indirectly kill like his mentor. Then his suit starts to poison him, and he starts to slowly die. So after he deals with all that, he still has not processed his trauma. Then he realizes that the palladium that he's using to keep the shrapnel out of his heart is killing him. So now he's trying to do as much good as he can with the new life he was given, and that's still killing him. So now there's a ticking clock on his life, and he knows no matter how much good he does, he's still going to die. And he starts acting like a private. Because he knows he's going to die soon. He can't find any other fuel for the suit, so he's going to die. And what does he do? He throws a party, gets shithoused, and wants to get laid. what did we do before we went to Iraq? I'll post some pictures right here. This right here, this was me in 2006 before I went to Iraq. Do I or do I not look just the damn fool that Tony was at that freaking party? Dumb, drunk, but having fun. When you think that you're gonna go and not come back, you wow the hell out. And that's what he was doing. He didn't think he was coming back. And he went Joe wild. So yeah, I felt that shit. I did that shit. I know what that's like. And it wasn't until he was given an out, like, you can actually manage this, that he's like, I can do something. Given some control over his destiny. And he actually became a grown-up a little bit. It all tracks. It's actually kind of amazing how much that makes sense. But even with that, as he's working on that, he finds out that his dad lies to him. Then freaking Whiplash comes out and wrecks his shit. And what security he thought he had, that gets destroyed. Like, all of these things are happening. And they haven't even addressed his PTSD yet. It's just constantly more trauma, more stress, all stacking up. And then he has no support in all of this. He's a lone wolf. He doesn't have anyone helping him except for Rhodey and Pepper. And even then, half the time they're just enablers. They're not actually there as emotional support because, again, he's still emotionally stunted. He's still an arrogant prick who doesn't let anyone in. And even when he does, not enough to actually lower his guard and talk to people and deal with his emotions. And then what? In Iron Man 2, both Pepper and Rhodey reject him. Rhodey takes the freaking suit, even though he let him. And then he gives Pepper the freaking company because he thinks he's going to die. And she blows him off because she thinks he's being, yet again, an irresponsible dick. Even though it's actually it's a death note. Like, he thinks he's going to die. And they both reject him. And he's alone and dying. Yeah. He's pretty messed up in the head at this point. And after he finally deals with that even a little bit by the end of 2, then Avengers kicks off. He fixes his heart shit, and like a couple of things are off the table, and then aliens invade. His government tries to murder a city and him, and he thinks he's going to die, and he almost does die. And it's not until after all that happens, he meets an actual god and aliens and all of this other crap, and his entire world is flipped inside out and upside down, that Iron Man 3 comes around, and it all comes to a head. And he has time to sit down and relax for a couple of months. And he has to deal with it. Like, it's actually calm. After Avengers, there's enough time for him to actually sit down and think. And he is messed up. Because he can't sleep. He can't deal with all of the shit coming together. And dealing with it. Kind of like you go on deployment, you push it all down, and you just you go on the next mission, you go on the next mission. A buddy of yours died. Yeah, that's sad. And then you just go on the next mission because you can't deal with that right now. We don't have time. You got ops every 24 hours. And then all of a sudden, after 13 months of continuously just going on mission and doing your shit and getting it done, then all of a sudden you come back and she's like, yeah, you got 3 months and you're not doing anything. And all you have to do is you're up in your own head and you're thinking about all the shit you have not dealt with. And you lose your shit a bit. You thought you were okay, but you're not because you just weren't dealing with it. And they show that. He's constantly trying to keep himself busy while working on suit after suit after suit because it's the only way to keep himself out of his own head. And what do soldiers do? We drink and we drink and we drink and we party and we drink. Some guys do disappear into work and all kinds of other stuff, find ways to be busy. Anything to not actually deal with our shit. Anything to not actually have to be on our own heads. Because what's in our head is some terrifying crap. And so when he finally gets to the point, like in Iron Man 3, when he's sitting there like having a panic attack, like at a restaurant while talking to a buddy of his, because some stupid kid walked up to him and just like, hey, like in New York? And you're like, oh, Tony's being an asshole. Like, no, he's not being a dick to the kid. He's not even really just talking about New York. He's now finally reacting to and dealing with the stress of like everything all the way back to the point when, he got, he got murked by one of his own rockets. By the fact that he's realizing, like, I have killed, like, dozens of fucking people. Like, you know what? They were terrorists that were killing innocent people, but it's just like, hey, fucking a month before that, I was just an asshole drinking in a freaking skyscraper. Like, his entire world has changed, and he's just now starting to deal with it all at once, and it's a lot for somebody to take. And so he fucking pulls the ripcord on that shit, and just like, boom, I can't fucking breathe. To the point where he blacks out and he wakes up in this suit halfway across the country in Tennessee. It's just like, what the shit? And like, yeah, panic attacks, they happen. Sometimes when you try and deal with like years worth of shit all at once, you know, your brain has circuit breakers and it tries to save you from it. Very clearly needs to go to therapy, but you know, yeah, Ironman would never go to therapy. He should, though. All of them should. But that's what makes it so relatable. Because we all, us vets, we go through shit like that. And you can see it as it's being itemized. Be like, yeah, you know, dealing with that, all of that trauma. I'm like, even the shawarma scene. I mean, after a huge firefight, a massive combat operation, and like you've been cranked to 11 for so long, all of your neurons firing, you've had your adrenaline pumping for so long, and the crash you have after that, and you're just like never been so exhausted, and you're just like excited and tired, and it's just like, God, I need some food. Like, let's just eat. You want to hit up the chow hall, and that's what they did. They just fought an alien horde, and they saved New York, and like Iron Man was one like, hey, you guys want to get shawarma? Like, you want to get some tacos? Like, of all the scenes in that movie, I love that one the most, because again, I could relate to that. We get back from a freaking air assault, be like, let's hit up the chow hall and fuck up some Otis Spunkmeyer muffins. It was like, I felt that shit. It was awesome. So yeah. To get back on track, which is something I have difficulty doing. I think the Ironman movies do a great job of portraying PTSD, and I think it's something that a lot of people deal with, and veterans definitely have their fair share of experience with it. And I think we should talk about it more often, because it is a big issue. We've had almost 2 generations of people going off to war now, and it's going to continue to be an issue. And accepting that it's also an issue with other people, and understanding what it is, how to deal with it, how to help our friends and family who have it, how to give them the aid that we can and the support that they need is really the best step that we can do. And for those of us who do wrestle with it, if we are managing it well, we should give our support in whatever capacity we can, to our brothers and sisters out there that are also struggling with it, and reach out. And I think that's the best that we can do. I don't know a better way of ending this video other than to say that we should support each other and do the best you can to do the most you can to those around you. And that's it. So I will see you guys next time when we tackle some other issue. In the meantime, be great to each other.